Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here, and this is the Kripp list version of the star ratings for the upcoming Saviors of Uldum expansion. So we're going to do it this way. We did a Kripp list video a while back, and I think it went pretty well. I think it's quite fitting here. So as you can see, we're going to illustrate how good the cards are. All the cards from every single class and the neutrals in this video on this diagram thing here. 5 stars is the first row, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. And then we have that arena dump over there. Those are cards that are honestly not very good constructed cards. You know, they don't have to be said that they're 1 star or 2 star. They're just not very good constructed cards. But I'll put them in that area if they are notable arena cards. And there's going to be some of those. So I think it's pretty important to identify them because I know a lot of you guys actually play arena as your main game mode. If you want a lot of details on the cards themselves, this video will offer some, but if you want the full extent of how to use these cards, how they might work, make sure to check out all the previous card review videos that we've covered for this expansion. In terms of the star ratings themselves, 5 stars is, very notable card, pushing the archetype, pushing the class, extremely high power level, fits into almost any deck, or carries a specific one. 4, just a good card. You'll see it from time to time, not that frequent. 3, you won't see it very much at all, but maybe some people will include it, maybe as placeholders. And 2 and 1 is kind of like, the worst of the worst. There's not much difference between 1 star and 2 star cards. 1 star cards, I feel, are cards that literally have no hope of ever being played in this next expansion. And 2, maybe there's some hope that I'm not quite realizing, but we'll see. It's probably pretty similar. And in arena, obviously, cards that shape the arena metagame. So we're going to get started here with Druid with untapped potential. It's the Druid quest. So I played quite a bit of this Druid quest. It's certainly a very good quest, but I think it actually struggles quite a lot against aggro. So I think it's a 4-star card, not quite a 5. Bees is possibly the single best card in the entire set, so a 5-star rating is honestly very much expected. Elise the Enlightened. So you might think this is one of the best cards in the set. Well, I think it's one of the best no duplicate cards in the set. Now, I think this card will require some time before people actually figure out what to do with it. It could be a decent arena card, but no, it's probably going to be a 3-star card. I think it's a 3-star card because, again, it's strong, but I don't think it's one of the forefront Druid cards. I think it's going to be kind of like the Malagos-style Druid thing. It's going to be in a combo deck. It's going to be a pretty difficult to play deck with a pretty fair but not impressive win rate. And I think she's going to be the center point in one of those decks, if not in this expansion, in the next one. Hidden Oasis. So Hidden Oasis, in my opinion, is entirely tied to the quest. So Hidden Oasis as a standalone card is pretty crap, but if you use it with the quest, it's like the best card in the deck. So there you go. I think it's pretty fair with the quest. Live or die. Anubis Defender, I think, is a 5-star card. It's just going to be thrown into any Druid deck that runs a few high mana cost spells. And that's not just going to be the control Druids. It's not just going to be the quest Druids. It's going to be all Druids. If Token Druid decides Anubis Defender is worth playing, they're just going to put it in with, maybe 3 or 4 high mana cost cards. So it's not bad. Among those high mana cost cards, Overflow. So Overflow, I think, is a 4-star card. It's a pretty good card, but it's no UI. It's no like I win the game instantaneously when I play it, but it is significant card draw, and I think it should be respected as such. Worthy Expansion. This card is once again entirely tied to the quest. I have played this in a non-quest Druid format, and it was not very successful. It is not a very good card. Most choose one options are surprisingly ineffective when you actually need a specific one. I was pretty disappointed most of the options offered at most turns in the games where I played this, but obviously in quest Druid, it's very respectable. Oasis Surger, I feel, is a 5-star card because obviously it's very good with the quest, but I don't think it's entirely tied to the quest. I think there is some chance people will play this card in non-quest druid as well. I think quest druid in general is going to be like a tier 2 deck, so I think, it's a respectable card in quest druid, but I also think people might consider Oasis Surger in a token deck. Maybe not. And I think people might consider it in just any other control deck. It's just a very good control card. Hit 2 things for 3 or hit 1 thing for 5, and you might even have a body at the very end. So very respectable once again. Crystal Merchant, I think, is once again tied to the quest. Now, Crystal Merchant can be used in a combo deck, which is kind of like, one above the quest, because, possibly more reach than just the quest druid. But I do feel that combo druid is not looking quite as strong as the quest, and it's not looking quite as strong as like the tempo token variant, which means that, well, in this expansion at least, it's not really going to be above the rate of play of quest druid. Lastly, for druid, we have Garden Gnome. Garden Gnome, I think, is a 5-star card. I do hesitate. I do think it's kind of like an in-betweener. We can put it there. I feel it's a very strong card in a token deck, but again, you're going to have to play the token deck that runs an Ubisoft Defender. I don't know if it's quite strong enough to run in other type of decks, so probably the rate of play is going to be a bit limited. Maybe it's actually closer to a 4-star card, in fact. So that's it for Druid, and I hope with this type of diagram, you get a pretty good idea about where Druid ends up after this expansion. Looks like Druid's going to be pretty good. Moving on to Hunter. So what do we have for Hunter here? First card is going to be Dinotamer Bran it is. Okay. All right. Cosplayed as this guy. Should know what it's called, right? So you think this card is good? You get a King Crush for a little bit of a discount. You get a bit of a body. You just have to run a non-duplicate Hunter deck. Is a non-duplicate Hunter deck going to be really good? Well, it could be, but I don't actually think so. I think it's going to be pretty mediocre. I don't think it's completely hopeless, so I think, maybe sometime from now, some people might actually realize that there's some potential to the card. Maybe it'll be like a tier 2 deck at that point, but it's certainly a pretty difficult card to play, and it's a pretty difficult deck to pilot. So I think even though some people might have a good bit of success with this deck, I think the masses will struggle quite a bit. Wild Bloodstinger, 6 mana, 6/9, and you basically have a little bit of combo disruption. It's a beast. It's pretty good. I think it's a 4-star card. I think the card is strong enough to be played in lots of environments, including Arena, but I think because of the combo disruption, it'll probably see a bit more notoriety in constructed play. It's solid. It does Hunter things. It's a beast. You get some synergy off of it. So overall, I think it looks pretty good. Scarlet Web Weaver, I think, is also a 4-star card. I want to move it to 5 stars. It's just the combo hunters that we kind of thought could happen when we first saw the card. They don't really seem like they are a thing immediately. Now, it's possible that through some genius deck building in the next few weeks, some people might find a balanced version of combo hunter that can actually survive. But the main issue is that most combos involve multiple beasts, yet you typically want to buff a specific one. Scarlet Web Weaver is also itself a beast, so you'll often just hit itself, which is okay, but you're just looking at a pretty damn solid tempo card, not too much else. Hunter's Pack. So Hunter's Pack is obviously very good. It features as draw. Card draw, you get a weapon, you get a beast, you get a secret. All the secrets are pretty good. All the weapons are pretty good. All the Hunter beasts are very much on the mediocre side. I think it's a good card. It's a very good card draw, but it's a huge tempo loss when you play it. I have played this card so far, and I haven't really been blown away, but you can't call a card like this bad. Pressure Plate. After your opponent casts a spell, destroy a random enemy minion. I think this card kind of sucks. I'll give it 2 stars because there's some hope that it might see play. If there's a specific combo deck that utilizes no board, play a minion, use spells, Pressure Plate is literally how you counter that. So it's a very deliberate counter combo card. So, in that sense, it's useful, but I don't see that happening too soon. Desert Spear. After hero attacks, you get a 1/1 Locust with Rush. It's a high durability weapon, but yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm going to put it 4 stars. I certainly think some people will underrate this card, but it's actually relatively strong, and that is from someone who has played with it. Hunter Quest. Unseal the Vault. Oh man, this quest sucks, right? Summon 20 minions. The reward is +2 damage permanently on all of your minions for 2 mana. This is a big risk I'm taking, but I think it's a 5-star card. I played against this a little bit, and this card is kind of unstoppable. I feel there will be a Hunter deck where you just screw around, play a bunch of dudes, and stall into a turn where you play Unleash the Hounds, and you just buff it all. You can even do Leroy Unleash and then Unseal the Vault. The combo potential is actually extreme. This card might take some time before it sees play, but I think this card is actually completely ridiculous. Next up, we have Hyena Alpha. So if you control a secret, summon 2/2 hyenas. Well, it's hard to say that card is no good when it's obviously very, very good. And we have Ramkahen Wild Tamer. You copy a beast in your hand. It's typically going in the combo package. You get some value. It's a 3-cost 4/3, but it is not itself a beast. I think it's a card you would consider an inclusion in the Dinomancer brand deck, but yeah, even that. It's good, but it doesn't like blow me away. However, Swarm of Locusts actually does blow me away. Swarm of Locusts obviously is a good Hunter card. You get 7 things with Rush for 6 mana. So you can use it as a board clear, you can use it as a beast buffer, and you can just, use it as tempo. It's just a good tempo card. Swarm of Locust, I think, is possibly the best Hunter card in the set. When we were playing in the Fireside with the cross classes and all that, this is one of the most popular cards used across all classes when you could combine every card with one another. Think about that. Hunter in the next expansion, it's looking pretty good. I think especially given the fact that Hunter is already pretty good in the current meta. Next up, Mage. This should be interesting. First up, Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. Cast 10 random spells. Targets chosen randomly. The card is pretty good. I think it's a 4-star card. I think it will see some play. People hesitated with Yogg-Saron at first, but the Puzzle Box is very similar. The effect is extremely strong. Despite what you might experience once or twice, on average, it's going to win you a lot of games. Raid the Sky Temple. So this is an extremely slow control card. It will only really thrive if there is a very slow control meta. I think as such, it's a 2-star card. There is some hope for it. It's not a 1-star card in my opinion because it having the potential to rise up into the meta because it's actually really good in super control versus super control. Something can happen. The reward, by the way, gives you a random spell that costs 2 less. A lot of spells are pretty crappy, but the main issue with it is you lose your mage hero power. So it is basically not playable against aggro decks. And as it turns out, aggro wins out a lot. Reno the Relicologist. If your deck has no duplicates, deal 10 damage. Just to minions, though. It's a powerful effect. I think it's pretty hopeless, though. I think Singleton Mage does not have what it takes right now, and Reno does not push it into viability. Arcane Flak Mage. After you play a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. This is a pretty good card. I found it pretty difficult to use it in the decks that I built so far for this expansion, but with that said, it's extremely powerful against aggro decks, and it's a solid 2-mana 3/2 body, so you have to respect that for what it is. Cloud Prince, however, even though it looked like it was absolutely unbelievable, I think it's actually kind of weak. I think Cloud Prince is a card with some potential, but not that much. The main thing I realized with Mage is that you often just don't have a secret when you need one. You have Cloud Prince, but to guarantee Cloud Prince, you have to play a secret that turn, which is a really big problem if you're up against like an aggro deck. Tertolan Pilgrim might not look very good, but it actually is very good. Tertullian Pilgrim is a 5-star card. This is easily the best mage card in this expansion. You're going to get typically like a Flame Strike from your deck or some just really good board clear or effect. It's a good body, and it's a great body for Conjuring, for example. Flame Ward is the new mage secret. Deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. I think this card is pretty weak. I don't think it's like hopeless because people might run a lot of aggro decks. It's really good against very small minions, but it's not very good once people start playing mid-range minions because it doesn't prevent you from taking the damage. The first thing that hit you still does the damage to you. That's kind of a problem. Ancient Mysteries, draw a secret from your deck. It costs 0, so you're basically getting a 1 mana discount on a secret that you'd have to play, that turn or later on. I think it's a pretty fair card. I think if you're playing any kind of secret whatsoever, you might as well include Ancient Mysteries for the fact that it is a spell, and Mage likes a combo with spells. It is a card draw, and Mage likes card draw, and it is secret synergy. Mage does not like secret synergy, not right now at least, but there's some hope for it nevertheless, I believe. I also think that in Wild, this card is going to get completely out of control because the secret you really want is Ice Block. Dune Sculptor. After you cast a spell, add a random mage minion to your hand. This is just a very solid card. Again, I had trouble including it in the mage decks that I played, but when you play this and just a few spells, it just gets so crazy. So I feel like it's just going to be a pretty good inclusion in just about any mage deck, and with that, it deserves a 4-star rating. Lastly, the Naga Sand Witch. Change the cost of spells in your hand to 5. I think this is a top tier card. The fact that you're changing your spells to 5 makes it so you can play 2 in a turn, which just makes it really ridiculously good. Yep. Paladin. What do we have for Paladin? Paladin is getting a bit of a facelift on this one. Brazen Zealot. When you summon a minion, gain +1 attack. 1 star. There you go. Is it 1 star? I meant 5. Basically, Paladin likes 1-drops. Paladin likes to play aggro, and it looks like aggro Paladin is going to be a thing that they're going to get a chance to play. Sand Wasp Queen, 2 mana 3/1, add 2 2/1 Sand Wasps to your hand. I think it's pretty decent. It's not like amazing, but I think it follows through in the aggro archetype that we will see some of from Paladin's expansion. The Pride, 3-cost 3/1, and you draw 1 health minions from your deck as a result of it dying. I think this card is pretty bad. There's some chance it'll see play in some kind of like critical combo decks because it's good draw. You can get like Novice Engineers or something to, just get more draw, but it's pretty hopeless otherwise. The Murloc, Sir Finley. If your deck has no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power. Upgraded hero powers are pretty good, but getting a random one in your aggro deck, well, that's a little bit hit and miss. I feel like the cost of playing this card is rather high. There might be some deck that people fit it in, but I don't think it's going to happen too quickly. Making Mummies. Play 5 reborn minions, and the reward is copy a minion. You get a 2/2 copy of a minion that you target. And yeah, that's crazy. This card is crazy. I made a deck with this, and every single time I completed the quest, I was completely unstoppable. Tip the scales. Summon 7 Murlocs from your deck. Wow, Murlocs. I think that's going to be a 1-star card for now. The Murloc pool is just not good enough this expansion. When I first revealed the card, I was hopeful that we will see more pretty powerful Murlocs coming up. We did not see them. Micro Mummy. Very strong card. 2-cost 1/2. It's a mech. It's got Reborn. It's got a win more condition. This card is completely bonkers in every single aggressive or mech paladin you'll ever play. Pharaoh's Blessing. Give a minion +4/+4, Divine Shield, and Taunt. It'll probably be in this 2-star category, but what you're really looking at is an arena card. This is one of the best arena cards you'll ever see. Taking your absolute garbage minion and crushing your opponent's big minion and still having it on the board with Taunt, that's just how you win games right now. 4-cost 4/2 Lifesteal Reborn. I played a Reborn Paladin, and yet I could not find myself to include this card. Which means it's not good then. This card is not good. Subdue, set a minion's attack and health to 1. I think this card is quite good, but I just don't see it being played right away. So I'm going to have to give it 3 stars. Maybe there's something I'm missing. It's a strong card, but I don't see where I would fit it in at this point in time. Priest. Oh boy, this is going to be good. First off, Plague of Death. 5 stars. This card is ridiculous. Complete board clear. You're going to play this in any slow or combo-based priest deck. Psychopomp. You get a Reborn Revive. Ridiculous. If you get basically any minion, this card is worth playing. High Priest Amet. When you summon a minion, you get to copy its health from the High Priest Amet. Ridiculous. This card, even if you're not playing it in an OTK combo deck, which you can, by the way, as shown on the other YouTube videos, it's just ridiculously good tempo. Grand Mummy, 2 for a 1/2, buffs other stuff with Reborn, super hard to remove. Ridiculous card. Embalming Ritual, give a minion Reborn. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. People will think it's bad, but it's not. You can put it in a lot of decks, you stick it on a big minion, and your opponent has big problems. Wretched Reclaimer, destroy a friendly minion and return it to life with full health. I think this card is pretty good. I think it's not quite as good as the, 5-star cards of the set, but it's still very good, and it works quite well with Grand Mummy, for example. Activate the Obelisk, heal for 15, and you get the heal for 3 and +3/+3 on a minion. Ridiculous, guys. Ridiculous. Penance, deal 3 damage with Lifesteal. Ridiculous card. Holy Ripple, 1 damage to all enemies and restore 1 to friendly characters. I don't think it's ridiculous, but I think it's very strong as well. And Sandhoof Waterbearer, also very strong. I don't think it's quite ridiculous, but it is very strong. And if it is going to be an aggro meta, you bet that's going to be a 5-star card. So what do you think about Priest this next expansion? Pretty good? Pretty good. Next up, we have Rogue. First Rogue card, Plague of Madness. Each player equips a 2/2 knife with Poisonous. Near hopeless. I think this is, if you want to get some early game damage on your opponent, that's about it. Bizarre Mugger, 5 cost, 3/5 rush, Battlecry, add a minion from another class to your hand. Not too bad. Not too bad. You get value, you get some board effect. It's just by Rogue standards in terms of tempo, it's a little bit on the slow side. Anka the Buried, ridiculous card, but Death Rattle Rogue is a real challenge. I couldn't make it happen myself, but even if you play it as a standalone card with just a few Death Rattles, it's pretty good. So I think it's a pretty good card. The Comboer. It looks really good. You might get a lot of combo cards, but I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's too bad because if you just play like 2 combo cards, it's just a good value card. But there's just too many crappy combo cards right now to really see much play. The 3-star category is not a whole lot of play whatsoever, but someone might make it work in like a, B, C, D, T type of deck. Hooked Scimitar, 3 cost 2/2 combo, gain 2 attack. Is that good? That's pretty good. If you're playing a face/tempo rogue, I believe you're going to include this weapon. Shadow of Death, choose a minion, shuffle 3 of them into your deck, and you summon them when they're drawn. Is that good? Yep, that's a good card. You can use this on your opponent's minion, so you don't actually have to be playing a fast, you have to be playing a slow deck to make use of it. Just copy your opponent's stuff. Pharaoh Cat, 1 cost 1/2, add a random reborn to your hand. This card is very good. I think it's exceptional in like a fast-paced rogue deck, which is why I'm going to give it 5 stars, because I think that is the rogue deck that will triumph this expansion, or at least one of them. Saket Sapper, 4 cost 4/4, Death Rattle, return a random, it's basically Sap, Death Rattle Sap. I think it's a 3-star card, even though I think it might be in one of the better rogue decks. It comes as part of the pirate package with Hook Tusk, and I think that package is quite optional. I have a feeling that package will not be included in the eventual deck list, but I think it's going to be one of the best decks of the expansion, and it's possible it has Hook Tusk in it. Otherwise, the card is just a little bit weird to play. Rogue Quest, immediate 5 stars. This card is absolutely insane. It instantly turns your rogue deck into a control rogue, but you don't have to play a control rogue. You can just play an aggro rogue, and now you have the option to play a control rogue at any point in which you want. Lastly, Clever Disguise. It's very good for proccing the quest right away, but it's otherwise pretty terrible. Now, you might include this card just because you want to, activate your quest right away, or because you're playing some kind of Thief Rogue. But I don't know if full Thief Rogue is going to be that good, and I don't know if rushing to complete your quest is going to be that good either. As a standalone, that card is pretty weak. Next up, Shaman. Evil Totem. Super good card. Oh my god, unbelievable. If that goes uncontested in the early game, you win the game. Double Battle Cry. Absolutely ridiculous. Earthquake. Absolutely ridiculous. Weaponized Wasp. Very good, but I don't know if I'd say absolutely ridiculous on this one. The fact that you need a lackey, the fact that it costs 3 mana, it can actually be a little bit difficult to use. Plague of Murlocs. It's not too bad. I kind of debate between 3 and 4. I think we're mostly looking at a 3-star card. The way you'd use Plague of Murlocs is if you're playing an aggressive shaman, if your opponent plays something big, you just Plague of Murlocs, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. And, well, that's pretty good, I suppose. Splitting Axe, 4 cost 3/2, summon a copy of your totems. That's no good, ladies and gentlemen. That's way at the bottom there. Vicina, if you're overloaded, your other minions have +2 attack. This is obviously a very good card. I have a feeling some people will use an Overload Shaman, and Overload Shaman is already a good deck. Mogu, Flesh Shaper. I think it's a pretty good card. I tried using it, but it's a bit weird. The problem is, in the early game, if you get that and a bunch of spells, you kind of forfeit the game. So the consistency is a problem. I haven't been blown away by it. It's possible it might slip into a deck in the future, but right now, I feel like the fact that you need a board to play it just locks up your hand too often. Sandstorm Elemental, ridiculous. You get a Battle Cry. It's in the Battlecry Shaman. You get Overload. It's in the Overload Shaman. And it's an Elemental. So, well, I guess it doesn't matter anymore. And Totemic Surge. Your totems have +2 attack. This card is actually not as bad as the worst thing ever. There we go. It's not quite 1 star. It's like 10% above 1 star. Now, even though Shaman looks relatively balanced in the next expansion, I do want to tell you guys the single best deck I have played and seen so far from the new expansion is the Battlecry Shaman. Battlecry Shaman is completely ridiculous, and it basically holds on this quest and the Evil Totem. So those cards are really good, guys. Like really ridiculously good. Next up, we have Warlock. Warlock quest. Draw 20 cards, Tome of Origination. Is that good? No, not really. There's some kind of kooky control combo Warlocks you can play, but it's not consistent enough. Embalming, destroy a minion, shuffle 3 worthless imps into your deck. Is that good? Yeah, it's actually really good. It's a good removal, and even if you're playing a control deck, having your fatigue game extended is actually pretty useful. Expired Merchant. I'm sure there's some kind of crazy combos people are going to come up with this card, but I didn't see it yet, so I don't think it's that good, but surprise me. Ridiculous. Buffing your lackey to 5/5 is a game-winning early game condition. Rift Cleaver, I feel like it's a 4-star card, and then I'm I think it's a 3-star card, but really what it is, it's a god tier arena card. It's difficult to use this in Constructed, but in Arena, the thing you're going to kill is typically going to hit you in the face next turn, so destroying a minion at the cost of your health is just fine. Diseased Vulture. After your hero takes damage on your turn, you get a 3-cost minion. It's a perpetual effect. It's a pretty good card, but I did have some difficulty fitting it into my zoo deck, largely because lackeys. I had a lot of lackeys in my zoo deck, and lackeys don't synergize that well with it. However, they synergize very well with Plague of Flames. I kind of want to rate it 5, but I'm going to rate it 4. It's not the center point of those decks, but Plague of Flames is certainly very strong in zoo and potentially used in Control Warlock as well. Dark Pharaoh Takran. Ridiculous. Your lackeys become 4/4. Lackeys. Ridiculous. Neverset Thrasher. I think it's pretty good. I think it goes with the Vulture. I think it goes in a more traditional zoo deck, but I'm not sure if that will be better than the Lackey zoo deck. I feel like the Lackey zoo deck will be a little bit better, and it just doesn't have room for that card. But the card is pretty strong, and it works exceptionally well with the Vulture. Overall, Warlock, it's looking pretty good next expansion. Last class, Warrior. What do we have for Warrior? We got Reborn and Rush. Is that good? Yep. Is it 5-star? Man, I want to put it 5-star, but I don't have to put it 4. I feel like it's very good in control. It's very good in tempo, but I don't think it's like a must include. It's like a very strong, you can put it in your deck type of card. Armageddon. Good? Yep. Quite good. I would put it 4 stars. I wouldn't put it 5 because I feel like it doesn't build the deck on its own. It does build the deck on its own if you're playing Taunt Warrior, but I feel like you mostly want a Warrior deck that combines taunts and mechs and maybe even bombs. Just a little bit too much to work with. And kind of why the same, I want to put the Mercenary on a 4-star rating as well. It's an extremely good card, but Warrior is just so good, it's hard to find room for all of these. Into the Fray, give your Tommies in your hand +2/+2. I think this card is relatively weak unless you're playing a whole ton of taunts, and I'm not sold on that concept yet. However, just playing a whole bunch of taunts, I think is very good. I think the Flunky is actually a 5-star card because you can put it in every single Warrior deck, and it's pretty good in every single Warrior deck, especially because you're going to get more Flunkies throughout. Plague of Wrath, destroy all damaged minions. I didn't have too much luck with this card, but I have a feeling there's some hope for it, enough so that I will rate it a 4-star card. I didn't really try to play Control Warrior as part of the decks from the next expansion because I didn't want to bore you guys to death, but I think some people will not mind that and will be playing plenty of that card. Hack the system, attack 5 times your hero, and you get a dude hero power. It's actually pretty good. That hero power is relatively unstoppable. In terms of value, you can get a ton of stats constantly. Now, I think that deck might struggle. I think it's difficult to actually make a deck where you attack that much, but I think it's possible. Livewire Lance is the best weapon in the game, 5 stars. Tomb Warden is really good. It's a good mech, good enough potentially to run in Mechanized Control Warrior, possibly good enough to run in Bomb Warrior, and it's your #1 taunt in the game if you're playing Taunt Warrior. Armored Goon, I have to put it 3 stars. It is a good card. It is kind of tied to the quest, but not entirely, because you can play the quest in an aggro/tempo version of Warrior. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky sell. The main issue with the quest is you have to have a lot of weapons and you lose your armor up hero power once you complete the quest. So Armored Goon kind of bridges that, but again, it's not tied to it. So it's not quite as good as the quest, a little bit worse. Lastly, we have neutrals, and oh boy, we have a lot of neutrals. First up, Questing Explorer. I think it's okay. I kind of want to rate it 3 stars. I'm going to rate it 3 stars. I think Questing Explorer is a good card. It's just, it's not impressively good. Even when you draw the 1 extra card, I feel like you don't win enough of those games to warrant playing over other cards. And remember, we have a pretty large card pool right now. 1 mana, Death Rattle, add a random 1 cost to your hand. Well, that's pretty good. Yep, 1 cost with more 1 cost. Mermy, 5 stars. It's got Reborn. Desert Obelisk, no. I'm just gonna put that down there. Next up, Fish Flinger. So you get a Murloc, and then you get another Murloc. Murloc Shaman might be a thing still, and I think this card would be pretty good in it, but I'm not sold on it, and I'm not sold on Murloc Shaman being any better than the other many versions of Shaman. Mogu Cultist. It's really hard to pull off, but maybe not as hard as we thought. It's just a bit memey, but I think the deck can win. I think it's going to be like a tier 3 deck. So the center point of a tier 3 deck, well, it's at least 2 stars, I hope. Nephirek Ritualist, I pre-rated this card 5 stars, but I'm going to downgrade it to 4. A lot of aggressive decks are based around lackeys or battle cries in the next expansion, and they don't have a whole lot of stats in that regard. As for control decks, I don't know if it's quite good enough to include in control decks. So it's literally the best 2-drop I've ever seen, but it's kind of a mismatch in this meta. Anubisoth Warbringer, you're looking at one of, if not the best arena cards in the entire set. I think it has some constructed viability, but very low. Infested Goblin, taunt, and when it dies, more taunts. You never underrate taunts, guys. Taunts are good. Taunts are very good. Stealth with Reborn, not good enough. I will 1-star the Assassin. There's some possible hope in like aggressive decks, but don't count on it. 3 cost 5/4 with Reborn. but your opponent's cards cost 1 less. That's such a disaster. It's very annoying to deal with this card, so I'm not calling it hopeless, but surprise me, guys. Give it a try. I'm not brave enough to try it. Colossus of the Moon. It's a 10 cost that no one will ever play, but it will be one of the best things that you can get from an evolution or conjuring effect. It's also surprisingly good. Divine Shield and Reborn is surprisingly annoying. I do think I'm going to rate it 2 stars because maybe like that one guy will put it in a deck, but it's really not worth putting in a deck. Speaking of not worth putting in a deck, this guy falls asleep. I played him once, and he fell asleep every single turn of the game. He never attacked. Vile Fiend, 2 cost 2/2 lifesteal. Wow, what can be said about this card? Not a whole lot, not even for Arena. I think it's pretty weak for Arena as well. Mortuary Machine. It's an 8/8, it's a mech, but yeah, everything your opponent plays gets reborn. That's really bad. I'm not rating it 1 star because in hyper aggro, your opponent's dudes getting reborn might not be that bad. Bone Wraith, taunt with Reborn. I think this card is decent enough. I wouldn't rate it 5 stars, but decks that work around Reborn and decks that work around taunts are probably going to consider it highly. Conjured Mirage, the Fatigue Destroyer. Nah, it'd be fun though. I'd wish. Siamat. Not 5 stars. Sorry, guys. I think Siamat, even though it's got a lot of praise, even though it's very good, I think you're going to struggle to put this guy in too many decks. He's going to go into some, but probably fewer than you think. King Furious, for each spell in your hand, summon a random minion of the same cost. So I feel like this card is going to do really, really cruel things in some control decks. It's just those control decks have yet to be there. So I'm going to rate it 4 stars. I wish I could rate it 5, but I really can't find it in myself to do so. Karut Defender, it's got Reborn, it's got Taunt, it's got Death Rattle. Wow, this fits in everywhere, including the 2-star bucket. It fits in a lot of places, but I don't think it's going to make the cut in any of them. Wrapped Golem, it's got Reborn. It's super annoying to deal with, and it constantly spews out taunts. This is an arena card, but I think it does have a little bit of a chance in Constructed. It's going to be one of the best arena cards in the game, but again, it's not entirely hopeless in Constructed. I would perhaps rate this card 3 stars in Constructed. Injured Tolvir, 2 cost 2/6 taunt. It damages itself, so if you really need some healing or really need some taunt, it's pretty good. I just don't think it's that good. There's typically better things to put on your deck, but of course it is a strong card nevertheless. Sidekick, give something 2 health. It's a strong zoo card, but again, I feel like there's just typically better options, though I don't know. If you're playing just a vanilla zoo list, you might use it. I think a vanilla zoo deck will struggle in this upcoming expansion. That's why I'm rating it 3. But if you're playing like vanilla Warlock Zoo, I think that's a card you're going to want to play. Temple Berserker, this is a Reborn card, so it's going to see some play in Reborn decks, and I think it's really annoying, so I think it's going to see some play in Zoo decks. I have to give it 4 stars, though. It's not quite as good as Mermaid. It's not quite an auto-include. Serpent Egg, it's a good egg, and egg mechanics are relatively strong, but I don't know. I'm not like blown away on it. I'll give it 3. I think it's going to end up somewhere, but I don't think it's going to be the center point of the deck, with pretty decent other alternatives. Bug Collector. You get a 1/1 Locust with Rush. Pretty good, but there's just better options these days. 3 cost, 3/2 Reborn. You're going to want to play this in Reborn Paladin because there's just not enough Reborn minions out there, but in basically nothing else. I do think that's going to be a pretty good deck, though, so I'll bet on it and give it 3 stars. Zephyrus the Great. This card is completely game-breaking. So you may have thought that all the different 4 Explorer Legendaries are the reason why you want to play Singleton decks. You'd be wrong. Those cards are all mediocre at best. Zephyrus, however, is absolutely ridiculous. He will find the card you need. If your opponent has, I don't know, 6 health, it's going to give you Fireball 100% of the time. So the value in this card, particularly at the end of the game, is just mind-blowing. Scarab, get a 4 cost. Nope, I'd rather not. Octosari. This card looks a bit tricky to use. It is a bit tricky to use, but I do feel it's going to be used somewhere. A lot of time when you're playing aggressive decks, you really have to wonder, do I really want this card as opposed to just another small minion to increase the consistency of my early game? I think with Octosari, drawing 8 is typically going to be higher than that. I've seen the card played a few times, and I have been impressed quite a bit by it so far. Desert Hare. Nope. The Mischief Maker. It has some combo disruption option, but we have to really think about the game. So it's a 3-mana 3/3. Swapping cards to your opponent, that's only good if there's a lot of people playing combo decks. I think if a lot of people are playing combo decks, there are other options that are even better than that, so I'm not really sold on it. Living Monument, 10 mana, 10/10 taunt. Arena card, boys. It's a pretty good arena card at that. It's not like game breaking. It's not going to shape the arena meta in a huge way, but it's certainly going to be a factor. Pit Crocolisk. Now, I'd probably rate Pit Crocolisk 3 stars, but it is going to be one of, if not around the best arena card in the game coming up in the next expansion. It's very close to a neutral Firelands portal. Now, it costing 1 more mana, not that big of a deal for arena. That might be a big of a deal for constructed, though. That's why it might struggle in constructed. Wasteland Scorpid. Once again, it is a very good arena card. Again, pretty hopeless in constructed, however. Blatant Decoy will allow you to, push out some mana cheating combos if you really build your deck around it. So I wouldn't call it hopeless, but at the same time, I'm not particularly hopeful either. Faceless Lurker. You get a taunt, and if you have any kind of hand buffs, it's pretty good. So it's pretty good. You're going to play that in Taunt Warrior, and you're going to play that in any deck that has any kind of buffs. Except this buff. This buff is terrible. Bone Wrapper is pretty interesting, but the stats are pretty low, and I kind of find it difficult to use the card. You get to revive a card, but you put it back into your deck. So, I don't know. History Buff. That's basically what I've talked about with the Faceless Lurker. If you get 1 history buff on the Faceless Lurker, it's a 5 mana 4/8 taunt. It's actually pretty ridiculous. The Scoundrel, discover a spell or pick a mystery choice. I've seen it used. I wasn't impressed, but it's not bad. You can't call that card bad. The Elemental, that gives minus attack to your opponent's stuff. It'll work if tons of people are playing zoo decks, and I think they will. I think eventually the meta will stabilize. It'll be a lot of aggressive, lackey, board-centric combat, and in that combat, this is a blowout 2-drop. Very good. Kobold Sand Trooper, death rattle 3 damage to the opponent's hero. I don't think it's 1 star. There's some chance someone makes a hyper smork aggro deck, and it's possible that'll be part of it. I don't know. The Camel, no good, however. The Discover Discount, I think this will be possibly a card that people will use, but I didn't see enough Discover options when I was playing. It's pretty nice, though. It's a 2-drop that can have a powerful effect later on, and it's possible you can set up some pretty crushing combos if you can reliably get specific Discover cards from your Discovers. Also, you have to consider the fact that the Dr. Boom hero does a decent bit of discovering from time to time. So it's going to be a 3-star card. And that's it, boys. Hope you guys enjoyed the review for this expansion. It looks pretty exciting. Looks like we're going to be playing with quite a lot of new cards. Let me know what you agree on. Let me know what you disagree on. Love to hear it. And enjoy the rest of the content.